Okay, this first part, I need to go to the front so I can present on this, but the computer has to be plugged in back here. So hopefully you can hear me, even if you can't see me, and you can see this building, Panopticon, which is our word today. Give me 1 second, get started here. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I saw these on like not a fan. You don't realize all right. Our word today is panopticon. I will spell it. The picture is of a panopticon. I see what Is this our last word of the day slot? Yeah. Okay, so a panopticon. You're just going to take notes on what I'm saying. If you don't get the exact words, that is okay. But the definition of it is a disciplinary concept. So it's a sort of idea for how to discipline people who act out. And you put that disciplinary concept put into material form is this prison system called a panopticon. So this became a popular thing to talk about and a popular kind of prison in the like 1940s or so. That's when it started being implemented. So after what we're talking about with Frederick Douglass, but the idea is that you have a central observation tower and a guard sits in there, and the guard can see into every single cell, right? Whoa. Oh, yes. But if you're in here, you cannot tell if the guard is looking at you or not. So the idea is that you, at any moment, you could be observed, but you don't know if you're being observed.
It's like for
It's kind of like what happens with our cell phones these days, I feel. With the NSA listening in, it's like they probably aren't, but they could, and they might be. So it's kind of like, we better behave then, you better say the right things, you better do the right things, because the guard could be looking at you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's like a more extreme version of that. Yeah. So this is a disciplinary concept. Like I said, this becomes a concept after Frederick Douglass is writing, but he still talks about this idea. So look on page 36 with me. Okay, so he's talking about Covey, which is that guy that gets into the fight with Hutchinson, the slave breaker, and it says in the middle of the last paragraph there was no deceiving him. His work went on in his absence almost as well as in his presence, and he had the faculty of making us feel that he was ever present with us. This he did by surprising us. He seldom approached the spot where we were at work openly. Would do it secretly. He always aimed at taking us by surprise. Such was his cunning that we used to call him among ourselves the snake, And a little bit later, it says, this being his mode of attack, it was never safe to stop a single minute. So why don't you put that down as the example? Put page 36, and then just to remind yourself, it was never safe to stop a single minute. Will the groups raise hands? Will you raise your hand if you have not presented yet? So do we have 1, 2, 3, we have 4 groups to present today, it looks like. Okay, we're gonna call it at that. What I'm gonna have you do is just talk with the people next to you for a minute or so about what you think about this disciplinary idea. What makes this disciplinary idea so effective, do you think?
Santa's a great example.
Santa is a good example. A magical panopticon. That's a funny idea.
No.
All right, I just want to tell you a couple more things about this. So the guy who first was talking about this idea, he wasn't the very first one to invent it, but he was sort of examining it. His name was Michel Foucault, and he was talking about how he actually preferred torture and physical punishment to this form of punishment, because this one doesn't just crush your body, this one crushes your soul. It makes you compliant, right? Whether or not you agree with the rules, you have to do whatever that one person is saying that you can do. So it's like an example of like extreme tyranny. And he's like, I would rather somebody, rip out my fingernails than object me to this, because then I don't get to be the person that I am to my core. That was just his theory. I don't know how you feel about that, but it's a super interesting idea. And I think Frederick Douglass might agree with him, because look on page 64 too. I think this was Matthew's group that was talking about this sentence, right? Yeah. So here he's talking about how being a fugitive slave in a slave land is living in a land given up to be the hunting ground for slaveholders whose inhabitants are legalized kidnappers, where he is every moment subjected to the terrible liability of being seized upon by his fellow man as the hideous crocodile seizes upon his prey. So he's talking about how this idea that when he was a slave, people were watching him, and because you never knew when they were watching, you always had to behave. And now he's thinking about his life as a fugitive slave and how he still doesn't have any sense of freedom, because at any one time someone could be watching him and seeing that he was meant to be down in the South. So it's this idea of just being soul crushing to live in this kind of environment. Okay, with that, I am going to give the groups 5 minutes is all to confer with your group and make sure you're on the same page with how you're going to be giving these presentations. I'm going to share the video. Okay. It's coming up.
So our quote is from page 38, and I'll read the whole paragraph, but we're only going to focus on one. It says, our house stood within a few rods of the Chesapeake Bay, which broad bosom was ever white with sails on every quarter of the habitable globe. Beautiful vessels broke the purest white, so delightful to the eyes of freedom, or to me so many shrouded ghosts, terrifying torment me, the thoughts of my refuge. I've often in the deep stillness of the summer's Sabbath, stood all alone upon the lofty banks of that noble bay, and praised with a saddened heart and tearful eyes the countless number of sails moving off the These always affected me powerfully. My thoughts would compel utterance, and there was no audience for the Almighty. I would pour out my soul in my rude way with the moving institution. We're gonna focus on talking about beautiful vessels. And since our quote is talking about boats, we're gonna make it more about boats.
Yes. So everyone get out a piece of paper.
Do we want to give them paper?
Yes. Sure.
I can make another board document. It's not yoga, yoga.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, Claire.
Yeah, and then look, even idiots, they're the same person. My knowledge says.
Just let me know when the quiz movie. Okay. All right, so we're gonna play this movie, so you gotta watch it. Here we go. My volume is over in the corner if you want to turn it up. I don't know if it's, there we go. Okay, does everyone have their paper on their desk? Okay. Do we need to make it square?
I did not know there were different types of paper.
Okay. Hamburger style. Flap on the bottom. Hamburger again.
Why are they going so far?
I don't know what your problems are. I can do it. Slap on the bottom.
I ended up with this. This is hard. I get it. I used to be so much better at origami. I was that kid in full origami. I was that kid.
Okay, I might have missed something too. Oh yeah. Yeah, Tenley boat crew. Boats. Okay. Let's have quiet for the presentation.
Can we pull the screen up?
Yes. You just pull it down a little and then let go. Gotta do it straight. Oh, there we go. Do you want to turn that off too? You could. You just hold down off for a minute. There you go.
Sure. Okay. So basically, the votes are relevant in this because this little bit of the text is basically a reference to the vote, and he's talking about how he really it's like his life, and he sees that freedom, and he can see those votes, and so as he sees those votes, he's like, I can be free, and these votes can go wherever they would like, and he cannot, and I think that's a pretty good reference. So I decided to pick some words. I really help emphasize this side. So the first word that I picked was delightful. And when having reason to relate the most is what? Well, I think that says delightful in this because obviously the whole message is just the opposite, and it's so like different with like beautiful and like purified. So it's just like getting more of a variety. Yeah. To, like show the difference. Definitely. It really creates like that huge difference that shows like how much stuff. I think too, when I hear the word delightful, I don't think like it's like, oh, like I'm like screaming with joy, I'm so happy, whatever. It's almost like when you like say like, oh, that puppy's really cute, right? Like you're just, like it's cute, like it's like, oh, it's a nice feeling. So like instead of right to the eye of a free man, where for someone else it like it's gonna cause them completely different emotions. Even they don't truly appreciate maybe how important like both. Yes. Which was saying, but the fact that he had it so delightful almost makes it so more yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's more of like, oh my gosh, the dictionary definition of delightful is how like this means it's great for one's life. So I think that really shows it's not, it is about him, but at the same time it is about the eye of the freedom. Like it's anything that is going to please them. So over here we were just making some lists for like the negatives and positives in this quote because it really like juxtaposes like Claire was saying, the difference.
Yeah, so we're taking out the adjective in the quote and we're going to talk about the connotations that specific words have. So have any thoughts on like the positive words or the negative words? Out or is it why is that? Try that. I don't think about like
I think, torturing and torment are kind of similar, but at the same time, tormenting is kind of more, like you're saying, haunting. It's gonna stick with you and it's almost driving you nuts in a way. And I think the idea of having that freedom, but he doesn't get to have that freedom even when he is he escaped, so he's still kind of a fugitive slave because he still can't do the things he would like to do with stuff to watch him back. So throughout his whole entire life, he feels really happy to terrify a record. Yeah, like it's a terrible. Yeah, I think so as well. And I think the context here is like my own thoughts. It like shows escape mind, but also okay, so now on our little boats, if you were able to successfully make them, on one side of the inside, you're gonna write like all of the positives. On one side, right here, all the positives, and then on the other side is all the negatives. Okay, one more thing on the negative aspect. So if you put your pencil into the little boat on the negative side and you try to like have it stand up, it's gonna fall over. So we were kind of having that represent how we don't have that balance.
If you have your pencil on one side, then it's gonna tip over the boat. If you have it on the other side, it's also gonna tip over the boat. You have to have a good balance of positive and. So yeah, we're just gonna do the same thing with the positives that we did with the negatives. Not for me, because I'm lucky that it's five. It's kind of pointing out how the like maybe like, oh yeah, it's clear white, that's great, it's good. Back to the wall. Except people don't. Yeah, I think it's also super good right? I was curious because I feel like almost to the treatment of
try to do something that looks nice, so I guess it's kind of, I guess. Like, all of the agreements. And so, they're not maybe agreement, like, they're considered beautiful, so they're really nice. I almost feel like beautiful is like, not, I don't know, it's not quite used in like a super sarcastic way. But the fact that he still said like those beautiful vessels, even though like very like later on that it tells us that like those things, the ships were like bad, something bad for him, right? Still calls it beautiful. And it's almost like being sarcastic, but I don't know how to explain, like irony.
Irony works really well. All right, I have to cut you off because we have to get to the other groups. You guys did a great job. Okay, yeah, you guys are going next. Tenley, next group. Jack, you're going. Steal your
Why did you miss this class? I was very smart.
It's like a word thing. So ours is on page 53. I think chapter 10. Okay, 1 through the 12. How like good we do. Okay, you can. Okay. In a few moments, they succeeded in tying John. They then turned to Henry, who had by this time returned, and commanded him to cross his hands. I won't, said Henry in a firm tone, indicating his readiness to meet the consequences of his refusal. Won't you? Said Tom Graham. No, I won't, said Henry. With this, 2 of the constables pulled out their shining pistols and swore by the Creator that they would make him cross his hands or kill him. Each cocked his pistol and, with fingers on the trigger, walked up to Henry, saying at the same time, if he did not cross his hands, they would blow. Yeah, hard out. Shoot me, said Henry. You can't kill me but once. Shoot, and be dead. I won't be tied. This he said in a tone of loud defiance, and at the same time, with a motion as quick as lightning, he with one single stroke dashed the pistols from the hands of each constable. As he did this, all hands fell upon him, and after beating him sometimes, they finally overpowered him and got him.
All right. So, do any of you think this shows a risk to his life in this quote or getting in trouble? So it says indicating his readiness to meet the consequences of refusal. So, do you think he's talking about his life or just like getting in trouble?
Actually, it wasn't even serious. But I think that he was just like very he knew that they were threatening people. But I also think that like he would be really scared to not kill even though that sounds really bad. Like because he's gonna have to take so long. But yeah, I really think that.
Yeah.
give it all up.
Yeah, it's enough to do stuff like, or. Anyone else?
Think about the book. I said, with the choice of order shows how.
Sorry.
How do you think this shows the impact? How do you think it like shows the seriousness of the situation?
I think where he kind of says you kill me but once, it's kind of like, it seems like with the, with killing obviously, with killing once, but with him, like, it seems like he just is constantly going, Henry is constantly going through, like, obviously probably there's like with Bane and all this stuff and kind of like showing that, like, if you kill me, that'll only be like a one-time thing, I guess. And on the other hand, all of this, like, it's constantly going on. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but it's kind of like showing, yeah.
So, yeah, I like, that you can do the one, but because I think it's showing like serious slavery overall, because you kind of, created all people who would rather die than live the life that we're making anyway, and, so they're saying, like, because they have no control, they have no control over anything in their life at this point, really, and, because they're like tied up and they're being controlled by the slave owners, they would prefer like the unknown, the apple, whatever. Like, and like, there's so much confusion about that. Like, there's so much information. Yeah, like, we don't really know. And so the fact that he would take like that, would prefer that unknown over being subject to all of this.
So I'm just thinking about the part where and in a way you can think of it as but not really. But you can kill somebody's spirit, and so I feel like there's like that's part of that person thoughts, and then will that's the thought, and so this part, like, how is it showing this?
I think I love this moment in the book. It's so exciting. And it's like this moment where someone like finally, it feels like he's like giving them what they deserve. What's so awesome to me here is this all hands fell upon him. And so it's like he fought them off for a long time and they were armed. And they finally overpowered him and got him tied. But the idea here is it's almost it yes, that's awful that they're beating him sometime, but the way he's worded this, it's a celebration for his like show of like strength and resilience. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, going along with retaliation. Kind of what I said before, it shows like, like the narrative that was told that slaves retaliate, and also in some aspects that they were okay with what they
the life that they had. But this passage shows like how they had that fight in them, and how they wanted to get out of this life, and how it meant more to them than anything else. Scripture shows one from the resistance.
So, what section of this passage acts your emotions, but like applies to like pathos, like most like visceral emotional
Me?
reaction? Either.
Okay. Well, obviously, like, no one really wants to know it's not what someone wants, right? It's kind of a scary idea. But the fact that, again, he would rather, like, than to be, like, tied up, it's just, it really, like, makes you think, like, oh my gosh, like, this bad kind of shows that people, like, have such a breaking point that they would rather have death than just, being tied up in those two. Actually, like, the fact that you're actually
You could say the majority of peers probably have experienced like violence or and would value their lives and would probably comply with everything they ask in that situation. But the fact that he is completely different and even resists it when there's like multiple components, it kind of shows the horror of the situation.
but he's, I was, that's what he's saying. He's doing his actions. Oh, yeah, it was. But then, like, he's showing that for the slave, it wasn't just like a slave, yeah, if you don't think it's, you should probably maybe listen.
Yeah, more of a turns into an action instead of just sensitive.
Give you 60 seconds.
Just so you guys know, I gotta cut you off in 3 minutes.
You were like,
Like,
we're just gonna keep going, but you guys try. You guys try, I will go. Is there someone who would like more experience of writing to do this? Painful, unbearable, and the freedom to food, peace, for slaves, there was not much experience of life themselves to get out of this world. Many things to live. I want to answer our society because the slaves is I feel like this side relates back to like how they were being sold like things like that. But it was better to get out of life, I guess, and like that is that. This feeling, and it was like, this made it so horrible that they, like, that overpowered everyone. Guys, see, they're actually realizing how powerful of a state this is. Not like
Okay, first person to get, find hobby that shoe is used in that paragraph is a surprise. Bruh. I think it is four.
I said 4 first.
That seems like something I do. You're good, you're good.
This passage is in a real strong contradiction of we hear the same words instantly it's followed up with shoot, I won't be blind. The constant emphasis shows us brutal honesty that returns the idea of what is constantly emphasizes that comes with a certain power.
Because like, it wasn't just like something they said, it was like their life, it meant so much to them, and it wasn't just like, oh, you know, it was theirs.
It reminds me of that's like the scene in a movie when somebody has a gun and the other person just like steps right into that gun. You know, they've seen in movies, right? And they're just like, shoot me, go ahead, you know, shoot me, you know, like it's just this breaking point that's so, I don't know. It's tragic, but it is also, and I don't know how to say this without swearing, it's also badass, right? Like it's just like him slapping the guns out of their hands and just being like, shoot me. Like it's just a very cool moment. So yeah. Yeah, yes. All right, well done. We've got 2 groups left, right? Does anyone want to volunteer to go next? All right, over here in the corner. Sorry, I saw him first. Do you guys need the projector? Okay. Okay, so move you guys up to the front now.
All right, hi class. Hello. Cool. Go ahead and turn to page 40, and I think it's about 4 or 5. From the 4 or 5 on the bottom. So it's I then present. So go ahead.
Okay, so our quote was, I then presented an appearance enough to affect any but a heart of iron. From the crown of my head to my feet, I was covered with blood. My hair was all spotted with dust and blood. My shirt was thick with blood. My legs and feet were torn in sun-dried places with briars and thorns, and were also covered with blood.
All right, cool. So looking at this quote, what are the immediate like surface level things that you see? Things like repetition, you know, maybe metaphors. Raise your hands. Yes. How many times? I think 4 times. You know, kind of a big part for this little kind of sentence. Anything else you guys notice? There's phrases, heart of iron. Yeah, that's cool. That's a really big one. Let's go ahead and look at heart of iron for a second. Looking at this sentence, I then presented an appearance of not expect any but a heart of iron, right? That kind of hits hard, doesn't it? Right? A heart of iron. What do you think that means?
We always think of iron as like a hard, like cold metal. They're hard, cold stuff that have no attached.
Said like hard iron, because usually we use like hard as like oh stabbing pain or like because, like it's like the center where like all pain and like where like your emotions can be vented. And so when they talk about that, it's a really hard to penetrate iron. So like nobody except for these people that are doing it to us could like do it for us. Like I don't know how to like explain
Yeah.
That like little phrase makes me think of like the laws like he didn't have a heart. I think he couldn't experience like the joy and the happiness of life. So it's like
Yeah, everything you guys said was pretty what
I like
thought.
the Wizard of Oz. I thought of that too.
A heart of iron. Yeah, basically meaning that that person that has a heart of iron is kind of almost dead as a human, right? It dehumanizes that person. So taking that, let's kind of chunk that and keep it separate, and then let's go ahead and focus on all the times that he said blood, right? Covered with blood, clotted with dust and blood, right? All these he uses blood specific. What does that mean?
I think there's a correlation between blood and pain, and I think that's what he's trying to show.
I think the beginning of this passage kind of like you said, dehumanizes him by like having a heart of iron. With the blood, like it signifies and symbolizes that he is human, and that he has blood running through his veins just like slave owners do, and it just brings back his humanity and like says like we're not that.
I think too, like paint such a picture, and I'll try to describing like how it looks. And I think it like really touches like your nose or whatever, but like creating such like showing violence or like how hurtful but the fact that you covered the shows that you like a fine so like the blood is what somebody very wrong. It just shows how it's criminal.
Yeah.
I love that.
Good. So we're kind of focusing on that blood. It's really visual, right? It's kind of showing us that that really gory imagery, right? Of he was covered with blood. I think something with thorns. Yeah, thorns right here, right? Being really descriptive of that physical pain, right? So kind of separating these two. I kind of like to think of this bottom half with all the blood part as physical, and then this top half almost as emotional pain, right? So this is kind of in summary, or I'll ask you this, kind of thinking of the top part being emotional and the bottom part being physical. How does that connect with being a slave, basically?
I think a lot of times, like, because
Yeah, I really like this. I like this passage because it kind of summarizes all of the pain that slaves go through.
about, like everyone, like, talking about, how, even though presenting himself to like a slave owner here, he, knows that he didn't, like a barrier between the slaves and, the slave masters, like this, like almost physical wall here that's separating any like emotional connection between them. And I don't know, just like that.
And then something to think about to help it relate to you. We should connect better with that. Is that like when he says this like first line, it's kind of like it kind of reminds me, like when you're like really upset, had a rough day or whatever, and like no one seems to notice. It's almost like it feels no one's really like noticing you, even though like you're human and people should be there and help you because you're physically upset. And it's almost like we all kind of have a heart of iron because when you see someone like trying to grab them and falls, what's wrong? Some people do, And so like it's like almost to the point where like that bad that anyone can stop. And I feel like there's a lot of
Yeah, kind of short. Anything else before we close out?
I also think it's interesting that sentence that like he's basically like calling out all the slave masters for having a hard time because like he's saying that like like anyone would like realize that that was wrong, but clearly like persecuted it and like you're never nice them. So he's like pointing out that they all have the heart of iron and kind of also like friars and more interesting if that they can all these things. So they were so they did all the things that they done with him. And they had a heart of iron and that's why they did that.
The fact that he's saying that, and that
I like being called on. I love the way you guys have chunked it into emotional pain and physical pain because I think these two things go together really well because a heart of iron is like a barrier, right? Where that you guys said, Laura said, a barrier that you're putting up so that you don't feel the emotional pain. So he's talking about going back to his original master and saying, look what Covey did to me. And the original master saying, well, you must have done something to deserve it. Go back, And so it's like they put up this like bar to protect their insides from the outside getting in and like affecting their insides, right? Does that make sense? And blood works the opposite way. Blood is so horrifying to us partly because it is the inside becoming the outside. So he's in this position of extreme vulnerability where his insides are all on the outside. I know that's a very gross way to put that, but that's kind of there's like vulnerability and like he's been violated, like his body has been violated, right? And yet they are responding with this closed offness. So it's like this juxtaposition between being vulnerable and then being like hard-hearted too. It's super interesting. Okay, do you guys have any other things to add to your presentation? Yeah,
you guys
great.
Saw how we kind of almost chunked this kind of whole paragraph into like our surface level thinking, and then we went to more of like a sentence. Why did they put the sentence here? And we kind of connected it as a whole.
Yeah.
Oh, we taught something.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was really good. You got me to think about that in a new way. Okay, last group, are you ready? It's fine, you're ready. You do?
Oh, yeah, we have a slide.
Oh, okay. That's what you were sharing with me. All right, I didn't realize that. Let's get it up here. Okay, so go over, did you turn on the projector? Callie, did you get the projector on? So it's just over in the corner and then hold down on for a few seconds. That should work. Sorry, it takes a second.
Okay, there's only one slide, so. Okay. Quote, chapter 7. And just a little bit of context. Comparing their lives. So, quote says, I would sometimes say to them, I wish I could be as they would be when they got to that. You'll be free as soon as you are 21, but I'm enslaved for life. Have not I as great a right to free you have? In these words, you can trouble them. They express to you the black race of the being. And in this passage, he uses specific words like build up his argument. And our argument is that racism is something that's taught and learned. It's not something you're born with inherently. And he uses specific words such as express and liveliest. So this word especially is very like positive connotation. Like the word liveliest, it means like energetic, like that could be a synonym for it. And like it's like full of energy and love and life. And I feel like this word like contrasts like what he's talking about, the situation he's talking about. And I think that he uses the way that he uses the word is so important because it shows that the way that these like kids are talking to him, it like shows how much they need him and it's how like we're talking to him with such surprise that like wow you're not gonna be free. And then he uses the word express, which I feel like that word is so much more different than saying like oh like someone told me something, like saying that in another example like oh like someone told me their feelings or someone said their feelings to me. If you say like someone expressed their feelings to me, that's so much more different. Because I feel like the word express is so much more like heart in it and like emotions in it. So I think the fact that he used that word makes a big difference because it shows the way that the kids are talking to him. Yeah, I definitely think it shows that the children shows like pride that they didn't even like think of before as you know how racism is learned. And as a person that reads this quote, I was thinking and how racism can kind of be compared to like a disease because as these children are older, obviously they're going to get taught like parents and any other people that have an influence over them. And I feel like this racism that we are taught is sort of like a disease corrupting their thoughts, ideas, and actions.
So yeah, I also kind of like the idea too. I don't know if you've like heard of this idea, but basically there's an idea that the world makes you and it's not you that makes you, it's like the world. So this kind of reflects it too, where it's actually like basically during this time slavery is a thing, right? And it's like reflecting back onto like none of this would have happened if slavery wasn't succeeding. So I just enjoy that basically like these kids, they don't know a ton about slavery yet, but like they're gonna be taught it, but they happen, like it's been around them like their whole life, right? So yeah, I just like it. It's just reflecting.
Yeah, I feel like it's really important. This is a really important purpose of receiving sympathy from these young kids. And I think sympathy was something very rare to experience during this time period because everyone was racist. Like, no one would feel sorry for him because being a slave, this is how it was. So the fact that he's receiving sympathy from these younger kids shows the defense that was taught to them. Yeah. Sympathy. It reminds me of like in history, like we were talking about how the founding fathers, they knew slavery was an issue and that wasn't good, but they thought like it had to happen, and so they didn't do anything about it. They were like, in generations down the road, hopefully it will go away or someone else will fix it. And like it reminds me of that because it's like they feel sorry for them, they feel bad, and like they are never gonna do anything about it. They start to hope that maybe someone way down the road will help them, but they're not gonna do it. I think too, going based on that sort of like their top slavery, he explicitly shows this with just the words used to. But these words used to trouble them, which obviously implies that it doesn't trouble them anymore. It shows that they did learn that it's not an issue for them anymore. Yeah, you're slaves, yeah, you're not gonna be free. It shows that it explicitly tells us that they grew into so that happens, like these in the Bill of Rights, like they were at the rights to enslaved, it's like they tried a little bit. I think it was short because they were focused on other stuff, but slavery is such a over like other representation, like not represented. It's not really as bad as it's just they pick and choose. I really like this book because it shows how like slavery corrupted both states and because like it shows like because he knew that he would not be free like those boys when he was older. But those boys when they were younger, they were like easily troubled by small things, but then they had hope that something would occur by which I might be free. So, like they just had like this innocent sense of like worries and troubles and hope and like my feelings like kids at the game. That just seems like such a thing. And you know that like the words used to they aren't like that anymore. It's kind of just where they kind of lose a lot of their emotional expression. Thank you. That perfectly leads into our next part of the activity. So we're gonna have you guys go into like groups, well, not groups, just like the people around you. Yeah, and you guys can talk for about like 60 seconds about things that you're looking forward to when you're older, like when you're 21 and your parents aren't like caring what you guys are doing. So come up with something that you can share.
They always care.
So you have to be code down. Yeah, they got yeah, you just wait.
Does everybody have their cards? Okay, let's hear the next part.
All right, if you want, you guys can share some things that go down that you're looking forward to. There. I'm looking forward to like, building a career. My like ideal state right now is living in a tiny apartment where it rains. That's what I want.
I can travel the world.
And speaking of the things, how do you feel when you think about the things you just really want to do, but can't quite right now? Like I want to take You could probably go to IHOP.
Okay.
That's everyone.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, everyone with a green card going this side, everyone with an orange card going this
Yeah, really cool people that we got. No. It's like, yeah. I will be so proud.
Okay, so now we're gonna hand out snacks to you guys based on which color card that you get.
See,
So flip.
All right, Rain, I brought some candy.
Yeah.
Depend on the kindness of the green cards. You say as you giggle over your camera. That's so sad.
As the green card, you know. It was really awesome one time, but I was talking to this guy, like how she's like from the like, I was born here. How does this make you guys feel? How do you guys feel right now? It makes me feel a little angsty.
No, just put it for fun.
Are you guys mad? Yeah. How do you guys feel?
All right, well, I'll let you talk.
Literally everyone.
That's it?
lunches, the snacks they're getting, the things you've been looking forward to. Whereas Frederick Douglass, he was just left like, what about me? And so. I'm hungry too. Yeah, you guys have never thought.
Yeah, we go to the 60s
I mean,
yet.
yeah.
All right. Good job, guys.
Are there any fruit?
Actually. Okay, go ahead, take a seat. Enjoy your snacks while I bring up this Canvas page.
Your drugs and I have got your.
That's so annoying. I can't get it to come down sometimes.
Yeah, I know. And I'm like, yo,
You have a no. No, I'm just kind of sad. When I told that, it's like, yeah, that was so. I should always be.
Okay, so you guys did awesome presentations. I was very impressed. I take all the credit. And they were really good. You guys should all think about careers in education. But it was all leading to something, right? Let's not forget what it was leading to. You're writing an essay about Frederick Douglass. So it's due on, for you guys, that is the 2nd. So that's Tuesday. The essay is very basic in the way that it's presented here. It just says, you will combine your close reading skills with observations you made in class about rhetorical structure to that I edited that and it's not right. To write a rhetorical analysis of the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave. So you are just writing an analysis of his rhetoric. You have heard about lots of different moments in this book now where he is purposely making language choices in order to persuade his audience to a certain opinion, right? And we talked about how you want to narrow down that argument before you start trying to write it. So if you try and write a paper that is Frederick Douglass is arguing that slavery is bad, you're going to run up into trouble because that's too broad of an argument. It's bad in so many ways, right? Which we've been discussing for the past couple of weeks. So you want to narrow that down. My argument that I would write, I want it to be about how rhetoric is like leads to the possibility of freedom for Frederick Douglass. So he's arguing about the power of communication to change people's minds. You could be writing about the way that slavery influences the youth, you know, and turns them into something that they are not. That he's arguing that naturally we might be good people, but the good people can't exist under a slave system if they're in the oppressor position. Or you might be arguing about religion. He has a lot to say about religion. On one day we made a whole big list on the board of all the different like kind of focuses he has. Yeah.
are we supposed to like point out the
Yes, so this, I wanted to show you this because you've got, I've put this little handout here that if you're feeling so stuck, it gives you a kind of step-by-step for how to start writing this thing. But it's kind of optional. What you need to know about that though is you want your rhetorical analysis thesis statement to include a description of his argument and a description of the strategies that he uses. So a really basic format might be something like Douglass argues blank using blank.
You don't have to use that format, but that's kind of shows the two parts. You are having arguments plus rhetorical strategies. So under rhetorical strategies, what are some things that you've noticed in our presentations that he does over and over again? Okay, good. He uses a lot of verbal irony. Yeah, what else does he use? Yeah. He uses a lot of juxtaposition. What else? Repetition a lot, and all different kinds of repetition, anaphora. I don't think we got to it. We did, okay. And a diplosis, like he's got a lot of different kind of repetition. He uses imagery, he so on and so on and so on. All right, so for Friday, we are going to be working on this paper on Friday. I'm not going to do a multiple choice Friday so that you guys get a chance to like work on it. Yeah. So for Friday, it's not officially a homework assignment, but it will be so helpful if you come to class with a really basic thesis statement like this. Because we're going to work on making it not so list-like and a little bit more interesting. But if you come to class knowing what your focus is going to be and knowing which rhetorical strategies are contributing to that argument, you'll be starting in a really good place for getting a lot of good work done. Do you have any questions on that? Okay, I'll be getting your presentation scores in on Skyward. What's making me chatty, obviously.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. He did our social. What, really?
I thought you said you
I'm thinking of like inspired by a true story. Little Billy, like.
Okay, I didn't bring you up there. Hopefully you heard that part and I will see you on Friday.